Today we're going to be covering the most important EQ in your entire mix, which is the mix bus EQ. The mix bus EQ is going to be, as is stated on the mix bus, and is going to be impacting every single sound inside of your mix. This is the most important EQ inside of your mix because we're going to be able to shape the overall tone of the entire song just with this one plugin. We're going to want to be a little bit careful in terms of not wanting to mess anything up during this stage, but also if we get this right, it's going to make the rest of the mix so much easier for us to do. As I've already stated in the last two videos, these steps are the most important. Up until this point, everything that we've done is impacting the entire mix, and the entire tone, the entire dynamics, and the entire balance of the mix. If we get these three steps correct, then it's going to make the rest of the mix easier and more enjoyable to do. Part of this series that I'm doing, I also created two different guides for you to help you out as you're moving forward in your journey of mixing systematically. So the first one is going to be an EQ guide, which gives you all of the basic understanding of where the areas of interest when you're EQing each and every single instrument. This is just a guideline, but it also gives you some tools that you can use to understand what's actually wrong with your instruments and your tracks as you're diving into EQing various instruments. And then the second guide is a guide on compression. This is basically a 101 guide on what compression is and how to use it effectively. It goes through the 4 styles of compression so that you can understand exactly what I'm talking about throughout this series. So make sure you pick up both of those guides. You can find the link right below this video, or you can go to mastering.dinosaurdogstudio.com. With that said, let's dive into actually how to do your mix bus EQ. So now that we have compressed our mix bus, we are now ready for mix bus EQ. There's a couple different strategies that I might use to capture the mix bus EQ. My preferred method is to actually use just an analyzer and my ears to identify where I should boost and cut for the mix bus. However, because I know that not everybody has really developed the ears to do that, there's another method that I also might recommend. And that is taking a match EQ and referencing a reference song and then comparing that to your own song. So let me show you how that works first, and then I'll show you how I would probably approach it myself. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw on a match EQ on my stereo out. So this is just a stock EQ plugin that Logic has. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my reference and I'm going to hit learn, play my reference, and then it's going to analyze what frequencies exist in that song, in that final mix. And then we want to do our own song. And then our match EQ is going to tell us exactly what frequencies we need to boost or cut to have an equal balance as them. So I like to smooth this out just so we can see exactly what's going on. So it looks like they have a little bit more mids, a little bit more at 5K, and then a huge dip at 20K. So we got something here that's really strong in that high end. It's probably the vocals. And then they've got a little bit more subs than we do and a little bit less bass. So what I like to do here is not actually use this EQ. I'm gonna actually disable that. And then I'm going to recreate this EQ curve using a separate plugin. So let's go to my mix bus and I'm going to add EQ. I'm just gonna use a channel EQ for this so it's easier to see. And I'm gonna reference my match EQ, what that came up with. I'm basically just gonna recreate this EQ curve. I'm not even gonna listen to it, I'm just gonna go ahead and recreate it. A little bit there, let's put a low shelf, around 50, 1K. Small boost around 5K, and then I'll cut off some of that top end starting around 10K. So So that's one possible approach that you can use to tackle the mix bus EQ. Again, we're not trying to make any dramatic changes, we're just trying to shove it in the right direction. The next option is to use the analyzer and also just your ears and determining what I should boost or cut. I'm not necessarily sure if I'm thrilled with the reference mix to begin with, so I'm not sure if I actually want to use that as a basis of what I want to do with my own mix. So let's see what we have here with our own mix here. I just like the analyzer on this EQ here, so it's which is why I'm using it. What I'm hearing is around 200 and maybe 100, a little bit too much. So let's take that out. And then the other thing is I'm looking at a weak spot kind of around the mid-range here as well. Might make these a little bit more flat. Again, not making huge adjustments. We're just kind of nudging it in the right direction at this point. Yeah, so I'm tempted to cut off some of that high end to like the reference song, but I actually know that I'm just going to adjust that in the vocals. So I don't need to adjust that here right now. I'm gonna deal with that later in the mix. So again, don't just blindly trust your reference mix because it may be leading you astray. You may want to do some slight changes here, but then really dive into the mix to fix the core issue. So this is a helpful tip just to maybe fix a major issue or two. There's really not anything major here that I feel like is desperately needing to be fixed. So that's actually a really good sign that my mix is off to a good start in terms of just how it was recorded and arranged, and also my static mix is probably pretty much in line with where it needs to be. So those are the types of things that I'm learning along the way as I'm doing this. As you can notice, the EQ curves here aren't that different. I'm kind of doing a little bit cut. I'm a little bit higher than the reference mix told me to. And then I'm doing this boost around here, the mids, but again, I'm not adjusting any of the top end because I know that that issue is in the vocals, and so I'm not going to try to fix every single issue with just the mix bus EQ. The next video that we have set up is going to be diving into compression a little bit more on the actual instrument buses. So all of these buses here outside of those individual tracks, we're gonna be compressing all of this. So super excited for that. Make sure you check out the next video.